Welcome to 40 Weeks and More. My name is Edem Knight-Tay. Pregnancy test results are in. And yes, it is there. You are pregnant. However, few weeks into the pregnancy, you lose it. You pull yourself together, try again, and lose it. Yet again, and you lose it. What could be the cause of all these miscarriages? Today on 40 Weeks and More, Whitney will share with us how she ended up losing several pregnancies before her 3 miraculous boys were born. Miscarriages and all you need to know about it here on 40 Weeks and More. "40 Weeks and More" is brought to us by Ernest Chemist Limited, Ship Healthcare Specialist Medical Center, and Labadi Beach Hotel. Also supported by DecoZone, Our Luri, The Better Merchandise, and Lunch Avenue. We're getting into the conversation, but first of all, meet my guests.
Hello, my name is Whitney Boakye-Mensah, the founder of MyDearSistersKeeperGh. I'm on 40 Weeks and More today, sharing my story on miscarriages.
So why do pregnancies miscarry? And why do they happen over and over in one woman? On 40 Weeks and More, we're discussing pregnancy and miscarriages. My name is Dr. Promise Sefogah, Obstetrician, Gynaecologist, Shape Healthcare Specialist Medical Center, and a senior lecturer in the University of Ghana Medical School.
Hello, Whitney.
Hiya.
Good to see you.
Good to see
My
you.
pretty beautiful sister. And Dr. Promise Sefogah,
Yes, ma'am.
Afo Dokita.
Bavado.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I like the sound of that. Great. So today on 40 Weeks and More, we are talking about miscarriages and why they happen and everything we need to know about it, and also to find out really if they are preventable. Let me turn to Whitney first. Whitney. 7 miscarriages.
Yeah.
And
2 stillbirths.
why?
Why?
Yeah, you know how I exclaimed when you were like 7 whole miscarriages.
Yes.
Okay, let me find out. At what weeks?
So the first one was a stillbirth. So that was
You had carried to 10?
I had carried. I was 6 weeks away from.
Oh,
Yeah,
34.
A baby boy.
Wow.
The second one was also a stillbirth.
That one to almost to term?
That was 5 months. Yes. So also a full baby, then and then the miscarriages started happening. Yeah.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to find out. You went about 34 weeks, almost to term, and then you lost the baby.
Mm-hmm.
How did you bring yourself to trying again? Did you see the baby? The still baby, you saw it?
Yes, when I delivered, I saw him. But amazing enough, I think it's one of the things that has made we do at with our community platform. So hospitals in Ghana have a thing where they think that they are helping you. So they take the baby away, they do the mass burial and that, yeah.
And you don't see the baby?
You don't see it after they take it away, so because they assume they're helping you
by not focusing on it.
Yes, and for you not to brood over that loss, so they do that a lot. But I think the lesson
But
is,
you knew you had a still baby.
I
You
delivered
did it.
the baby.
Wow.
I did with my episiotomy and everything.
Everything.
Yes, so I knew.
Did the health officials know that the baby was not coming out alive?
Yes, so what happened was my service opened. It come to think of it, I with BBM to same happened. So my service opened, I started bleeding. I woke up from a nap bleeding. And you know that when you're pregnant, you're not supposed
to bleed.
So I knew that was a cause for
Problem.
worry. So I went to the hospital. Fortunately, the hospital was about 5 minutes drive from home.
Great.
And when I got there, I told them this. I was getting contractions too, painful contractions, and they took me to the scanning room. Yes, they took me there, and then started scan to see what the issue. Then they realized that the placenta had separated from the fetus, and I was bleeding more.
Oh dear.
And they realized also that his heartbeat had dropped, way dropped. You couldn't even hear it. So immediately they said they had to bring him out. And since the contractions had started, I was injected, so I can, but he wasn't coming. He got stuck, so they had to do the episiotomy to get him out. But I think the painful aspect about that is, you're delivering with all the pain, and there's nothing. You're doing it in vain. There's nothing. Yes. So that's what happened. Yeah.
Today you are talking about it like this, but even with that first one, I'd like to know how you felt and how you were able to carry yourself back home and to even try for another one.
So when I got to the hospital, they called my husband and told him that this is the situation. So he had to immediately come because he needed to sign some papers and all that. And I remember when I started screaming and wailing and asking why and all that, because you know how you pick names and you have a future plan for their child and all that. And I remember him asking, why? What did we do wrong in that instant? But clearly what I remember is that I did not mourn enough because everybody kept saying, you're young, you get pregnant again. In the hospital, you get pregnant again, you need to take it easy, don't cry. If you cry, you get more sick, you need to heal you need to heal yourself. And I come back again to my day. So I think that I tell people that I probably can tell my story now because something good has come out of it. There's a community that has come out of it. And what some of us couldn't get, others are getting now. So you're even getting random hospitals. I don't know how they got my number or the counselors, and they'll call that, somebody has lost a baby, and they think that we should come over and help with all that. So I look back now and I say that probably it was my cross to carry to get to this point. But the second one was to even try after that is, I think that thankfully when you are newly married, there's still that cloud and cocoon you're in, so you're able to comfort each other and try again, because truly society is looking at you. You're married, obviously. What's next? Where's the baby? It's past 9 months. So we tried again and happened again. And second time was bad. Wow. Second time was bad because I remember second time, because we knew it was all the way through. So my mom was in London then. She had sent baby stuff, she sent baby food, all that in preparation for.
Did you have fears along the line?
Yes, even till I had my boys, I'm not one to rejoice when I'm pregnant. No, I don't rejoice. I don't tell anybody because you don't know if you get to the finish point or you won't. So no. And when the second one happened, we had to now start. We hear somebody's had a baby, we carry, because it was a lot of baby food. So we'll carry and go and give it to the person, the clothes with all the things that had come, the bassinet, everything. Any of our friends, the people you get married around the same time with, then we'll go and give it out. But I think that wasn't even as painful as when the miscarriages started.
Wow.
Then you start hearing all sorts of things. I mean, then the pressure, because now it's past 2 years, you're 3 years and nothing. And you hear all sorts of things. Edem, I have been, in fact, last week we went to Kwewu to do a recce for work. And when we got to the supposed church, I was showing my staff that, do they see that place? And one person said, why is the place so dirty? And I laughed. I said, you know, we've been here before. Then message was like, I have fees, I know, but because they know me. And I said, yes, but I wasn't the only one. You should see the cars that were parked there. And I've gone to strip naked in front of the supposed pastors, because apparently spiritually I had to do cleansing and all that.
Who advised that?
Pressure advised that. Pressure and desperation. And you are not, because now you've had 7 miscarriages and nothing was happening. In fact, the last one, where you know that it's been, so you want to protect it so much, 3 months you haven't been to the hospital, then when you get there, they start antenatal, and then the following week they tell you that they can't find the heartbeat, and looks like your system had absorbed the pregnancy. So now because everybody is asking same question. It's as if you don't know what you're about. Everybody is asking you, what is happening? Why is the baby not coming? If you love wearing high heels like me, probably you need to stop wearing high heels, because it's probably the high heels that
everybody had an opinion.
And then the suggestion came from a family member that, oh, this supposed church, they've helped people have babies, so we should go. And I look back now and I ask myself, was there even a need? Because, and when you're going there, you don't have to eat the day before.
Going to the church.
Going to the church. And when you get there, they see you according to the times you came. So you need to be there as early as, some people get there by 3 a.m., some get there by 4 a.m. And you stay, and the junior pastors preach and preach and preach. And then at 4 p.m. in the evening, that's when the senior pastor comes. Then he tends to you people like you're in a hospital. So they fortunately, when I was stripped, my husband was also there. He was in the room. So he had sort of like a wall.
Were you pregnant
with
at
calico? I didn't even know I was pregnant. In fact, at that point, I just couldn't care about anything again. So the calico was on the wall. There were 5 pastors on each side. He was standing at the end. Then they said, strip. Then you strip. And then stop looking at my face like that. Then they tell you that, oh, spiritually, they can see that, oh, you're fertile. You're even spiritually pregnant. You will have your baby. Then they give you some herbs in a bucket to go and bath, the both of you. So you go and bath in some place. Then when you finish, they give you concoctions to drink and give you some to come home with. Now, by the time we left there and we got home, I was bleeding black. Oh, no. Yeah. I was bleeding black.
You drank the concoction?
You drink it there. You drink it there, so they see. I was bleeding black. And initially I thought, oh, it was just menses and all that. But then we also realized that a particular stench had come into the house, and it won't, whatever you do, number of times you burn scented candles, nothing. So we had to gather them and go and tell my Reverend Minister that
this is what we have done.
We didn't even tell him this is where we told him that he needed to come home this week. As soon as he entered into the house, he said, where did you people go? So now we had to confess. And he said, why? He said, do you people know what you've gone to bring into the house? Do you want to have babies that for the rest of your life you're roaming in hospitals and you don't even know why? And it was at that point that we both said, listen, we were done. And as if that was not enough, you get very close friends too. So I heard that my bridesmaids had a meeting. They said probably the reason why we were losing the babies was because, thank God, they said my husband and I, we were addicted to each other. So we were probably killing the babies whilst having sex or something. And when I heard it, Edem, I said, thank God they said my husband. Because what if they had said that, oh, I was doing something behind him? But they said my husband. So, and I was listening into the conversation.
And the problem is that you two were addicted to each other.
Yes.
Okay.
Then...
That's a good problem.
You know, when people think they mean well for you. So one of his very good friends' wife called for a meeting, and she said, oh, they go to a church that they believe in the Old Testament. But what they will need to do is we will have to go to the beach at 12 midnight. They'll call the spirits of my mother and my father.
Hey.
They'll call the spirits of his mother and father, and they will ask them at the sea why we can have babies. Then they'll take 2 crates of beer, 2 crates of minerals, 2 crates, and then they'll go to some place, there's a cemetery there, and then they'll go and do whatever rituals and appellations and all that. And that's, I should look at them. She had just had twins then. She was pregnant again. All I care about is just wearing high heels and following my husband and doing this. And that the family was even planning to get him a Kwewu wife because maybe that is what will work. You know, I didn't even remember I had driven to her house. I left my car and I would never forget that day. I walked from Dansoman Runabout to First Light. Before I remembered that,
you drove
I
there.
drove to the house, so I had left my car there.
Wow.
And I remember asking God that, I mean, is there something that we had done?
Yeah.
I even remember asking my husband, did he promise somebody he was going to marry the person and he didn't marry the person? So because of that, we are suffering the consequences of that and all that. But funny enough, you know, every time somebody would ask him, he says, God is probably waiting for us to get enough money before the babies come because babies are expensive. So that was what he would. And I'm thankful that because it's even worse when your partner is now on you.
He stood with you.
He stood with me. And then you see, the sad thing is, it wasn't like I wasn't getting pregnant too.
You were getting pregnant.
But the fact that I didn't have a baby to show for it.
For all your pregnancies. Yeah.
So it means I was not woman enough.
It's bad enough, especially so in our society.
I was not woman enough. You can earn whatever degree, you can do whatever you want, but
you don't have a child.
You are not whole because you don't have a child. And you would think it would stop when the baby comes. But it doesn't stop. Because for me, even after all that, we had our first child.
Before you come to the first child, I'd like you to breathe a little bit. You know, I don't even know what to say. Like all the things you have had to go through, all in a bid to carry a baby in your arms. And the fact that society doesn't even care what you're going through and how you're feeling. Pressure had to drive you to do all of these things. We'll come and continue from when the baby started coming. But let me turn to Doc now and find out. Doc, 2 stillbirths, 7 miscarriages, all in one person. Let's not go into the spiritual aspects, you know. Medically, what could be the reasons?
So, the first one is something we call placental abruption. The placenta, listen to her, had separated. It is just purely an accident that happens in pregnancy. The placenta is what attaches the baby to the inside of the mother's womb. And there's a cord connecting that placenta to the baby and the mother. So the baby gets blood, oxygen, nutrition through the placenta. Some pregnancies just get complicated by that. One quick movement of the baby or somebody's blood pressure goes up during the pregnancy and the placenta peels off. So the placenta is peeled off. If you are lucky, it will just peel partially, If you're not lucky, it peels so much. If you're not lucky, it peels completely.
Totally.
And then the woman may have pain, start contracting, and then bleeding. And like she rightly said, no pregnant woman is supposed to bleed. So any pregnancy with bleeding shows that there's a problem. So you need to promptly seek care. And so sometimes we are lucky that it hasn't separated completely. So baby's heart rate will be dropping. And then quickly, if there is enough room, we quickly do emergency cesarean and take out the baby. Sometimes, once the placenta is separated, the womb starts dilating. So it's okay to quickly, hasten the delivery and get a baby
out.
Majority of the time, however, we lose the babies. And then it is a fresh stillbirth. Okay? And that is purely accidental. The second one happening at about 5 months may be due to weakness of the cervix. It's most likely that happens typically in the middle of the pregnancy. It's 40 weeks, so around 20 weeks, 16 to 20 weeks. Then the womb begins to just open. And then...
Doc, hold on. Whitney, you were attending your antenatals, right?
Yeah.
Didn't they notice that the cervix was weak at the time?
This was so if our first child had survived, he would have been 18. So this was 18 years ago, and I think that at that time they probably didn't pay attention to it well, because I remember finally when my mom, she, how she too, her friends would start, oh, we all grandmothers and you are not, so the pressure. When we started seeing my gynae date, it was one of the first things. Finally, when I got pregnant with my oldest now, they did the stitching.
Right.
And I was on bed rest most of the time.
Okay. So it was realized later?
Yes.
Okay, great. Doc, please go on.
Yes, of course. What happens is when you're pregnant, the baby is inside here in the womb. And this is the cervix. That cervix is supposed to remain tight throughout till you get to 37, 30, 39 weeks when labor is starting and it begins to open to have the baby come out. So for one reason or the other, due to some inherent weakness, which is, it has very little to do with something you have done or not done, it begins to open, and typically just opens suddenly. Now, if somebody has that history, then we are able to monitor. Before it opens, it becomes a little shorter. So we are measuring during antenatal visits. Is this cervix getting shorter? Is it already too short? Then we stitch it as a way of preventing it. But typically, those people with that problem tend to lose 1 or 2 pregnancies before it gets detected. Okay. Midway in the pregnancy. But so that shouldn't happen once and again. So when you come for your antenatal, you report that history that, no, I lost a pregnancy in the second trimester. It brings us to start looking at that, and sometimes go ahead even to stitch it as a matter of precaution.
Okay, great. Whitney, I want to ask you where you got the strength from to keep going and going and going until you have your 3 miraculous boys. But before then, we will be right back. Thank you very much for staying with us. If you're just joining us, you have lost a bit. We're having a conversation about miscarriages in pregnancy. My guest, Whitney, and Dr. Promise Sefogah. Let me say a very big thank you to Ernest Chemist, to Ship Healthcare Specialist Medical Center, and also to Labadi Beach Hotel for bringing us 40 weeks and more. And thank you also to DecoZone, Doberta Merchandise, to Our Lurie, and Lunch Avenue. Whitney's been sharing her story of how she had 2 stillbirths and 7 miscarriages. For me, it's one of the most harrowing stories I have heard about childbirth. You just want to get pregnant, be excited about it. Of course, we know that it comes with its own challenges. the morning sicknesses, the back pains, the waist pains, the I can't get up, the cravings, I want you to pamper me a little, I want to do this. Those ones, yes. Sometimes we know it's a bit more daunting than that. But to have to go through all of these, including spiritual cleansing, Abba, I said it earlier, when you see a pregnant woman, maybe you should just approach them and ask, how are you? And share some words of encouragement with them. Don't ever tell a pregnant woman that she is lazy. You have no idea what women go through, especially so in pregnancy, or what they may have gone through to have that pregnancy. Whitney, where did you find the strength? And I'm saying this because there are lots of people watching us and probably haven't had 7 miscarriages, 1 or 2, and they're throwing their hands in despair already. Where did you find the strength to keep going on and on and on until your 3 miraculous boys were born?
I don't think you find the strength, because honestly, at a point, even lovemaking became a chore. Because you know you're doing it not to enjoy each other, but for this purpose. They've given you a timetable, you've had your shots, so you need to do it at that time. Just so I don't know where my husband hasn't traveled to that I have chased him, just so that I can go and do it within a certain time frame to get a certain results. Hang your legs up for God knows how long,
just so it will stay.
It would stay. I mean, at a point you just, and the two of you, I remember the little time frame, then you get into an argument with each other, so you're not even in the mood to even try anything, because your hormones are all worked up. You're taking shots, he's taking medication, so you're not even feeling human. You forget, Edem, you even forget dressing up for yourself. Because you ask yourself, then what? You're going to dress up and
then what?
It's not just that people will look at you and think that, oh, that's what's important to you.
That's all she knows.
That's all she knows. We stopped going for naming ceremonies and stuff, because you will go and somebody will just take a baby, come and hit your stomach with it, that a year by this time you should be holding your, no decorum, nothing. And it's as if you don't know what is good for you, because you haven't had a baby. Any Tom, Dick, Harry thinks it's in their place to advise you, tell you what you need to hear at that moment. And maybe what they don't know is that you just had a miscarriage.
And you can't be trumpeting that all over the place.
You're dealing with that effect.
Pain of the loss,
The idea that every other time you're lying in a hospital and they're evacuating, people have no idea. People have no idea. I remember one of the things I told myself was that I've had too much to do with people in my private space checking me, doing this. So honestly, I don't want anything to do with hospital in my life ever again, because there's no privacy. I remember the one that they said it happens to women when they're pregnant. Doc, that the pregnancy disappears into your system. And it was such a strange case. I was lying on the hospital bed, and then this doctor will go and call this doctor to come. This doctor will also go and call this doctor, and you are lying there like you are a case study for them.
Well, you had that case too?
Yes. And everybody
were disappearing pregnant.
Yes. And everybody just comes and they poke you and they look at you, and you ask yourself, I mean, why? Why? What wrong have you done? What is it? Because I just want a child. And
rightly so.
And people won't just leave you alone, or can't stop telling you how you are not a whole person because this is missing from your life.
I'm sorry, Whitney, that you had to go through all of this. Now I understand why you're like a mother hen over your children. No, you should see Whitney. You don't step on her child's toe. No, you don't. You don't. You know? And yeah, we have experiences together. I understand. I understand. Doc, let's talk about, I'm so sorry that we had to make you recount all of these and shed tears all over again. But it's for the good. Someone will hear your story and be encouraged. 40 weeks and more. Doc, miscarriages. Please tell us, what happens?
Yes, so even before I talk about miscarriages, we need to know as a society that it is also possible that a couple could choose to be childless. So you have no business traumatizing people with your words and your actions just because you think they are childless. No.
They have problems bigger than childlessness.
And you know, and you are worsening somebody's already distressful situation by your comments, which are totally uninvited and unwelcome. So there is what we call voluntary childlessness. So let's get that. And let's respect. And if somebody is childless and you think you want to help, do it in a positive way if you can. If not, you pray for them. Now, miscarriages could be caused in a large number of cases in the first 3 months of pregnancy when there's something wrong with the formation of the fetus. Okay? And those are genetic problems. Not much of it is under the individual's control. There is some part which may be related to lifestyle. If you take a lot of alcohol, or your partner, a lot of tobacco smoking, or use of substance abuse, or certain medications, okay? Those ones, it means that the egg is either faulty and a normal sperm would fertilize it, or the egg is normal and an abnormal sperm fertilizes it. Or the egg has a bit of an issue, the sperm has a bit of an issue. When they come together, that pregnancy is not likely to stay because it's just a natural kind of quality control measure. Because if he would stay, you're going to carry to term and have a baby with very bad abnormalities. So nature kind of clears that, okay? And we would say painful it is, but there's a good reason why that would happen. Okay? Now, in the second trimester, maybe say from 13 weeks to about 26 weeks, if there'll be a miscarriage, majority would have to do with a problem with the womb itself. Some people have fibroids at a wrong location. So the pregnancy goes to settle either very close to it or right on top of the fibroid. It cannot stay. Also in the first trimester, some problems have issues in the womb. They are abnormal growths, not as big as fibroid. We call them polyp. Just like tinier, much tinier. But the pregnancy settles on it and it cannot stay. Thankfully, now we're able to assess the inside of the uterus and pick up these things and then remove them to make way for the pregnancies. Okay. And then sometimes the uterus is not formed well. Just like anybody will be born with some abnormal organ somewhere or the other. The uterus is supposed to be open like that with a bare space. Some people have their uterus having a wall inside. Okay, so it's as though the inside is divided into two. And you can imagine that cannot carry pregnancy. So those would also miscarry. Then in the third trimester, some medical problems can cause it. Maybe the person has a very high thyroid hormones. Person has very high blood sugars they are not aware about, what we call undiagnosed diabetes. And some hormone issues can all lead up to this. Sometimes the woman's blood sugars go up in the second half of the pregnancy. She was not diabetic, but just during the pregnancy, the blood sugars go really high up. It's not detected for one reason or the other, particularly if they don't attend antenatals. And then in the third trimester, getting to term, the baby stops. So these are some of the reasons why pregnancies would miscarry. Some are purely genetic that you don't have any control over. Some you can do something about.
And Doc, these situations are not salvageable?
So if it is from an abnormal formation, then it is good that it doesn't stay.
Okay.
because that baby hasn't formed well.
Okay.
Okay. Sometimes the baby is formed without a head,
Mm.
you know, and so nature clears them, just so you don't have to carry it. Especially, you know, now we have the tendency to scan and detect these things earlier. Yeah, you know. So if it has happened before and again, then we try to dig a lot deeper.
Okay.
But providing the patient with adequate psychological,
Okay.
emotional support is a core part of the next pregnancy stage. Okay, and that comes from the partner, the family, and society at large, and then the support groups like
Whitney has created.
Yes.
Of course, society will, I mean, quite often will only add to your pain. Whitney, the boys, your miracles,
Yeah.
how did they happen
Uh,
eventually?
So, like I said, my mom also started getting the pressure, so I think she asked around and she was told about Brigadier Saka. And for the first time, initially I didn't want to go because I was done. I had just said, I had closed the door on that. It won't happen. Let me just live my life. Let's, and we had made peace with that. But I think when she couldn't get through me, she got through her son-in-law. So he said, you know what? Let's just go and see him to let her know that we've gone to see him. And for the first time in our lives, we walked into a consulting room where, you know, we spent about 4 hours with Brigadier Saka and he didn't talk about pregnancy or babies. Nothing. We had every conversation under the sun but that.
I see. But that was the reason you went.
But that was the reason why we went. So it was when we were leaving that he said, okay, the two of you, I need you to do, then he wrote some tests he needed us to run. So we should run it and bring him the results. And we kind of felt okay, just talking to him.
Yeah.
4 hours, we
Wow.
talked about everything. He's actually my oldest godfather. Then we took the test back. Then he said he had to do flashing because he's seen some things. So he did that. Then he said, you know what? I'll just put you on some good hormonal stuff that will mess with your system, because as soon as he said that, we said, he said no. And just live your lives. Just
live.
I want the two of you to live. 3 months down the line, and I didn't even notice. I got constantly sick, and I didn't know why.
And you weren't consciously trying this time around?
No.
Great.
No. So he called and he said, hey, just because I said people should live life, so I haven't heard from any of you. And I said, well, I'm not feeling well. And he said, okay, pass by and let me see what's wrong with you. So when I got to the hospital, he said, oh, okay, I just, you're not feeling well, but to do the test, let's run a malaria test. I need blood. Apparently, it was blood sample
that he wanted.
But he didn't tell me, because he said, he didn't want me to panic. So we were still talking to him. We were in his consulting room, we were chatting with him. Then the results came back, and he started laughing. And he said, okay, you have a little bit of malaria, but I want you to lie on this bed. Let me run a scan and see if you've picked anything to up. And as soon as the machine hit my stomach, you could hear the heartbeats.
Fetal heartbeats.
He said, are you quiet? I said, you should go and live life. So this is what the two of you have gone to do.
Wow.
But then he said, you're going on bed rest. We'll have to stitch you. And I need you to decide that we are having an elective CS at this week. I'm not even going to
have a conversation around it.
on that.
It's a military.
Yes, very, very military.
Regimental.
And unlike people who were going for antenatal once a month, I was going for antenatal like literally
every week.
So
wow.
At 30, 35, 36 weeks, he said, this boy looks like he's strong enough to come out, and he wants to do the CS. So we had the CS, and he said as soon as they wheeled me into the theater, my BP started shooting. So he put me off. So I didn't even know what was happening. But I remember hearing the cry when he took him out. I remember hearing it. And then when I opened my eyes finally, the first question I asked was, "Where's my baby?"
Oh my world.
Then he said, "Oh, between your mother and your husband, we have to sack one person from the room because they are in there fighting over who to hold that
The baby.
So let's take you so you go and claim your baby." And I know people say their babies are beautiful, and I know people say that, oh, you experience a certain kind of love and all that, but you never really understand it until they put that baby in your arms.
At this point in time, I actually want to give you a hug. Wow. I'm so happy, and I love how it's ending.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you know, after him, now for 6 years, nothing. Now I don't even get pregnant. I wasn't. And if you think people are mean about pre-pregnancy, post secondary infertility is even worse. It's even worse because now they ask their child, "Don't you have a brother? Don't you want a sister?" It's as if society is never enough. Don't you want a sister? And for 6 years, for 6 years, now I wouldn't even get pregnant for anything to happen. Nothing. But I had made peace with the fact that, okay, maybe I'm supposed to have one. And I'm thankful for that.
Indeed.
But I started hearing him now praying that, "God, I want a brother." He was very specific. He said, "I want a brother to play ball with.
Oh.
I want a brother." For 2 years, it was a constant prayer for him. And then I had another miscarriage. So that was the 7th.
Whoa.
And after that, I got sick again. So this time, Dr. Saka was not, he said, "Let's run a test and let's see what it was." And I was pregnant.
And that one too stayed.
Then 9 months down the line,
you got pregnant again.
And this time I couldn't believe it. In fact, I couldn't believe it so much that when the scans even showed there's a baby, I said, "No, it wasn't me. It's somebody else."
Wow.
Then he said, "You know what this means? It means that for the next 9 months, if you try,
you will get pregnant
again.
Wow.
But fortunately, unfortunately, for the third one, I had the placenta thing again, so my cervix opened. And it led to all sorts of complications. I lost my blood level. By the time we hit 37, my blood level was 4.
Whoa.
Yeah.
4?
And he came out.
Out of what, Doc? 11?
Yeah, 11.5.
Wow.
Dr. Saka says how I got from the hospital to 37 hospital with blood at that level. Even medicine can't explain that. And he came at 34 weeks, so he was also a preemie. Loads of complication. And I remember this time saying, I remember telling God that if we survive out of this hospital, I was going to start the support group. Because when I got to 37, they took me to a room that had monitor, because they had to monitor. I was totally out. They had to monitor us and all that. And I was getting blood transfusion. And on my right, there was a woman also there. On my left, there was a woman also there. And Edem, this woman lying down, in the morning, her chef will come. They will bring her breakfast. They will ask what she wants in the evening. They will come back. The other woman too. So because I came from a private hospital and my stomach was still big, so I think they assumed that I was probably still pregnant. Until about 3 weeks later, when the blood had started, because when they started doing the infusions, my body rejected the blood.
Okay.
So they had to now pump. And at that time, they said even for heart surgeries, they needed about 10 pints of blood. They don't give that.
Wow.
So what was it that was happening? And they had to go to Kolebu. So now they had to get one of my in-laws, who's one of the highest blood donors in the country, to organize people to go and get, so that they can get that. And when I finally came to, I said, it was the first question I asked. I said, I wanted to see, did my baby survive? I wanted, and they said the baby was in Niku. I said, I wanted to go there. So they wheeled me there. And I went to see, he was like a rat.
Very tiny.
Very tiny rat in the incubator. And I was standing there when a baby went off, the beeping, a baby went off. And I was looking at him. So they said, would I want to do kangaroo? I was scared of him. He was like a tiny rat. He was in there. And if they want to run tests or do any test, they had to pull the blood from under his tiny toes.
Oh.
He was you could see all the tiny bones on him and all that. And they said there was something they inject their lungs with, so that
too much,
and you could only get it. I didn't even know there was a pharmacy at Mövenpick. It was my husband who was running up and down there, and at that time they needed 10. One was, I think, 700 cedis. I said,
Wow.
So I realized that in his head, because we already had a 9-month-old, my second child, so he wasn't attached. He didn't want to be attached to this one because we didn't know what was happening. He would rather let them save me. But I also
wanted your baby to be alive.
So they will wheel me. I'll go and do the kangaroo. And one of the days when I was coming back, the woman who was on my right was also coming. She asked me what was in my cloth, because she assumed I was still pregnant. And I had to open the cloth for her to see the little rats in my... You know what she said? She said, at least you will get to walk out of here with your baby.
Oh.
That was apparently, that was her 10th IVF.
And she didn't get them?
The one on my left two didn't get hers. And so her people had come. For her, she requested that she wanted to bury her baby. And her people had come, but they said they can only go to the morgue if they donate, because she also got blood transfusion. So they had to go and donate to replace before they give the baby to go and bury. It wasn't that she didn't have the money. Her 10th IVF.
If money could buy babies, you know. But eventually he got well.
He got well. We got out of the hospital. And I told myself that no, it had to happen. Something had to give. I had to do this thing so no woman will walk through what I have been through. So no woman will feel so desperate. Because
and be so lonely.
When you go through it, they tell you not to cry.
Yeah.
If you cry, you won't get pregnant again. So even for a lot of, over the years, what we've even realized, and Doc noticed, there's so much pent up emotions. When we even have the baby, we start feeling guilty that how did my body make this one leave and the other ones didn't. So you go through all those. So it's that safe space where you can scream, you can rant, you can say anything and you would not be judged for it.
Yamin Shah. God bless you. Seriously. And
thanks to people like Doc who we back him and then he'll give discount services, because it's expensive.
It is.
It is expensive.
And you know it because you have been through it.
Yes.
You have experienced it, and this is not just talking. Whitney, thank you so much for pouring out, on 40 weeks and more. There's so much to learn, And again, I keep saying I understand why. I mean, she's almost like overprotective over her children. Which of them supports Manchester United?
None of them. Thankfully.
So it's you who supports.
Hell no.
Oh jeez.
No.
So usually when you post this, you're not teasing them.
Yeah. So the oldest went his father's way and supports Arsenal. The middle supports Liverpool, and the baby supports Man City. So it's a house of very diverse, but because it's one Liverpool, one City, so I support Chelsea.
Great.
So we have teamed up against the two people that support us. So
Interesting. Congratulations and thank you for coming. Doc, what will your final words be, and then we can leave?
Yes, so miscarriages do happen, but when they happen, there are a few things we can do to prevent them from happening again. Some would involve a bit of lifestyle modifications, some would involve some medications before you even conceive, and some very close monitoring when you got pregnant again. But a lot of psychological, emotional support from the family, from the husband, in-laws, church people, and then all of us in the society. And all healthcare workers are to be reminded that when a woman loses pregnancy, it's a big deal. So let's be mindful to concentrate also on her emotional and psychological well-being. Let us all put our hands together and support women. When women have their babies in NICU, it's a lot of trauma, so much distress. Let's all lend that extra hand of support, understanding, so that psychologically they can be up and support the babies and have good and positive outcome.
This has been a school, and it's been brought to you by Ernest Chemist Limited, Labadi Beach Hotel, Ship Healthcare Specialist Medical Center, and thank you to our Louis Deco Zone, the Better Merchandise, and Lunch Avenue. 40 Weeks and More returns next week. My name is Edem Knight-Tay.